My thesis for graduate school was really thinking about the interactions between the pollen. So you all know about pollination. Like pollen lands on essentially a pistil, or to be more specific, the stigma of the pistil. And what I wanted to know is, how do they interact with each other? So if you put pollen from a different species onto a plant that is not the same plant, nothing happens, right? But if you put the pollen of the right species on the right stigma, all of a sudden the pollen grain starts to grow. So clearly there's something going on that interface between the pollen and the stigma, right? And so what's going on? How do they communicate with each other so that they know, right, that the right species has landed, and therefore you get the formation of pollen grain. And this was done in brassica, which can distinguish between different species, but also can even distinguish between own self, right? So some plants can self-pollinate, right? But other plants can't, and this one couldn't. So how can it distinguish between its own self versus other plants from the same species that will allow the pollen grain to grow, whereas from itself it won't? And so that's what my lab was interested in, and I was exploring what is on the stigma surface, the pistil surface, that allowed for that distinction, right, in terms of recognition. So that's what my thesis was sort of generally focused on.